clean it, exercise it, nourish it, take care of it. Okay? We should be very thankful to this body. We have been enjoying this life through this body, right? So whatever we have learned, or you have learned from other teachers also, just make sure that practice is very important. Otherwise, knowledge becomes a burden if you don't practice, if you don't bring it into our life. Okay. So today's topic is Dharam. Sometimes people call it Dharma, but real pronunciation is Dharam. Just like it's not a yoga, it's a yoga, right? So Dharam. Dharam is the proper pronunciation. Just like Karam, Dharam is pretty vast too. So today I have been given 45 minutes to talk. After that, Urmil, Manny, they just have some other program. So this topic is so vast, 45 minutes is not enough, but still I will try to summarize it as much as I can. Okay, there's just like Karam, we really cannot talk about Dharam in few minutes. In fact, we have had in the past 4 or 5 hours of retreat on this topic, Dharam. So, but let me see how I can summarize it in 45 minutes. And as you know, I always like to teach with the help of the scriptural injunctions, because this is not my knowledge. I don't own it. I'm just only a mouthpiece for my Guru. Okay. So in Mahabharata, and you know Mahabharata is one of the epics. Mahabharata, and what is the other epic? Ramayana. We learn a lot about the Vedic culture, Vedic philosophy from these two epics also. Because sometimes it's very hard to understand the Vedic mantras, but with the help of these stories, with the help of these characters, we can understand more clearly and we can remember it too. There is a couplet in Mahabharata which talks about Dharam. It says, Dharam ev hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshita. Tasmat dharmo na hant bhayo, mano dharmo hato vadhit. What does it mean? It means Dharam destroys the destroyer. So who tries to destroy it gets destroyed. Dharam protects the protected. Dharmo rakshati rakshita. Therefore, Dharam does not destroy, nor Dharam can be destroyed. So if somebody says, I'm going to destroy the Dharam, that person gets destroyed, not Dharam. Dharam is a name given to that essence. See, just like a God is a name given to that power. So Dharam is a name given to that essence which contains everything. Just like gravitation is a name given to that force which hold everything on earth. We call it a gravitation. So Dharam is the essence. And this is a fact, not an advice. This particular couplet I'm talking about, Dharamev hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshita. Tasmat dharmo na hant bhayo, mano dharma hato vadhit. There's another definition of Dharam in the Purav Mimamsa. Purav Mimamsa is another philosophical thought, a darshan. See, there's Shat darshan. One of the darshan is yoga, and another darshan is Purav Mimamsa. In Purav Mimamsa, the Rishi said, Abhyudhya Nishreha Siddhi Sadharma. So that Rishi said, Dharam is that which gives all around prosperity. That means the external prosperity and inner peace and joy. So abhyudhya nishreha siddhi sadharma. So person who is walking on the path of dharam will have external prosperity and internal peace also. There is another definition of dharam which says dharyate iti dharma. Dharyate iti dharma. So that means that which holds, that which upholds, unites, supports, integrates, or even essence of everything, or substratum, without which a thing is not a thing, is called dharam. See, just like a dharam of a fire is what? Heat. Not the flames, not the color of the flames, but the heat. Without heat, there's no fire. And what is the dharam of the entire universe? We say it's God. In religion, it's called God. In philosophy, it's called truth. So same thing. Whether we call it God, truth, Brahma, so that is a dharam of this whole creation. Because without God, there is no universe. And what is the dharam of us then? What is the essence of us? Because we got to find out our dharam. Who we are, without which we cannot exist. That means the Atma. So that's why every faith, every religion, every guru says, know thyself. That is the purpose of life. Another way rishis talk about dharam, they say dharam is the conducting factor, uniting factor. And dharam teaches us about these three factors in life. In Sanskrit, they are called Jeev, Jagat, and Ishwar. A dharam which does not talk about these three is not a dharam. It's not taking us towards the essence. Jeev, Jagat, and Ishwar. Jeev is I, the experiencer. Jagat is the whole universe I experience. And the creator of these two is Ishwar. When you talk about dharam, you're talking about all these three. Where we have come from, what my role is, what is the substratum. So that's why they say when we walk the path of the dharam, there is a more clarity. We know where we're going, why we are going, what we are doing, how to keep everything in balance. Dharam teaches us all that. Just like a karam, there are so many different ways we can talk about karam. There is a prarabdha karam, kriyaman karam, sanchit karam, akaram, vikaram, all that. The same way about this dharam also. In a manav dharam chaturth vidha. This is like a four-fold dharam. The rishi said, chaturvidha means 4 ways we can have 4 branches of dharam. One branch is called Vishesh Dharam. Vishesh Dharam means according to your status, the role you are playing. We have certain duties. Right now, I'm playing a role of a teacher. So what is my dharam as a teacher? To speak, to teach you the subject which has been chosen for today. So Vishesh dharam just for this role right now. And you are the students. So which is in Sanskrit called Shrota. So that's why they say Shrota should listen, should absorb, and Vakta should speak. If it's the other way around, then we are not following our dharam. So this is called a Vishesh dharam. Particular role we are playing, and we all are playing several roles. We play a role of a mother, a role of a wife, role of a student, role of a certain profession where we go. Those are all roles we are playing. That's called a Vishesh Dharam for that particular role. Then there is a role we play, which is called like a second category of Dharam, according to this definition, Asadharan Dharam. Asadharan means, see, Sadharan means ordinary. Asadharan means extraordinary. Because you have something extraordinary, so you have extraordinary duty, special talent, God gifted talent to write, to speak, to dance. So what are we supposed to do with those talents? Help others with that talent. Some people, according to their prarabdha, have a lot of money. What should they do? Just like these days, we have this virus pandemic all over the world. What are the rich people doing? They are spending their money to come up with a solution to this pandemic. You have heard about that. Bill Gates and a lot of other rich people, they are donating money for so that the whole humanity can get the benefit. And otherwise also the rich people, not just this yuga, in the previous yugas also, they help the society. They did not say that I am going to give only as much as others are giving. That's called a asadharan dharam, because God has been benevolent to you, so you are supposed to give back, because the whole creation is God's creation. Okay, so help the society, share whatever you have. And then there's a third category of dharam according to this rishi, is called apta dharam. Apta means in emergency, crisis. What are you supposed to do? According to our culture, we are not supposed to touch or even look at somebody else's spouse. Apta dharam is, if there's a fire in a house and you happen to see it, you are expected to even pick up that person and take that person out of that emergency. That's called a apta dharam. So in crisis, you even go against the ordinary dharma. Okay, so there is a Vedic saying, "Masam na bhakshet." That means do not eat meat. In our Vedas, very clearly it's written that we should not eat meat. But if there's nothing else to eat, and you're supposed to protect the body, and there's only meat available, then they say that's a aptakal. It's okay at that time. So that is not a dharmic, that is a dharmic act for that particular period of time. Then the fourth one is samanya dharam. And most of the times we live according to this, which is called a common dharam, samanya dharam. Everybody should follow it all the time. These are where the values of life you follow. Like to be truthful, values which are universal, and we are going to talk about it. So let me just Repeat these four. Vishesh Dharam, Asadharan Dharam, extraordinary, Apt Dharam in crisis, and Samanya Dharam. So these are the terms used in the scriptures according to these particular situations. So, and then in Mahabharata, there's another principle mentioned. And based upon this principle, which is like a progressive evolution of human beings, they recognized four goals of life: dharam, arth, kam, and moksha. So they put a lot of emphasis on the dharam over there. The whole evolution starts with the dharam. That's why it's very important to understand this term dharam. These four are called purusharths also. Some people call it goals of life. Some people call the principles of the progressive evolution in this human life: dharam, arth, kam, and moksha. So it's like a doctrine of these four goals forms the basis of the individual and as also a social life of a human being. This dharam word, the root word is dhri, dhri, okay, D-H-R, dhri. That means bearing, supporting, upholding, which really forms a foundation. That's why according to this four principles, dharam is the first one. So if the foundation is strong, foundation is stable, then based upon that foundation, when you go up, you will earn some living earth that will be good for you. With that kind of a wealth, you will move up. You will be able to extinguish your kamnai, your desires. And then with that kind of a life lived, you'll be able to attain the ultimate goal, which is called moksha. So that's why they say the dharam provides moral and ethical guidance. Dharam holds mankind together individually, socially, politically, culturally, and spiritually. And it also helps a person to fulfill his or her individual needs and obligations towards the society. That's why dharam determines the social conduct of an individual, maintaining social stability. And besides the general prescription and those four categories of dharam, there is another way to look at dharam also. Swadharam and Varna Ashram Dharma. In the Swadharma, our position in life is very important to look at. For example, a soldier's Swadharma is different from a doctor's. A soldier's dharma may require him to take a life. But the doctor's dharma is to give life. That's why a master's dharma is different than a servant's. And a teacher's dharma is different from that of his students. So it's according to your own duty. Okay, Swadharam, your own dharam. And there are enemies of the dharam also. So while dharam is teaching us how to evolve, how to reach towards the moksha, There are enemies. We got to be watchful of those enemies, all the enemies. And I'm sure you're all familiar with these enemies. Lust, which is called Kam. Moh, attachment. Ahankar, egoism, which we talked about last week. Krodh, anger. Matsare, jealousy. Mad, pride. Lobh, greed. So when we are adhering to our dharam, with the full knowledge, we'll be able to conquer these enemies also. So then it will benefit us at the individual level, and it will benefit us at the societal level also. And then eventually we will progress towards our ultimate goal, which is called moksha. Another way rishis talk about dharam, they say there are 4 things which determine what is dharam. Shruti, Samriti, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with these terms. Shruti is the primary scriptures, the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, that's called Shruti. First-hand information from God. Samriti, the secondary scriptures. So Shruti, Samriti, good noble conduct, which is called Sadachar. So Shruti, Samriti, Sadachar, and the 4th they talk about Savasya cha priyam atmana. That means one's own joy and pleasure. So in other words, they don't say that walking on the path of the dharam is painful. Ultimately, it feels very pleasurable. We all know that when we tell a truth, doesn't that feel pleasing? Then lying, even if we are lying for whatever justification we give, that gives us a burden. So that's why Shruti, Samriti, Sadachar, Swasya Priyam Atmana. So when we are performing an action, we can tell if it's our dharam by questioning whether or not the action is approved by the primary scriptures or the secondary scriptures. Sometimes people say that there's a contradiction. Whatever I have studied so far, I have never seen any contradiction between any primary scripture or a secondary scripture. Sometimes the interpretations could be wrong according to that person who's interpreting. Otherwise, there's no contradiction at all. So we got to look at it. My conduct, is it based upon Shruti and Samriti or not? If they say, my behavior, Sadachar, my behavior is sad or not? Is it good or not? Just knowing the scriptures is not enough. Ravan knew all the scriptures, but his conduct was not good. That's how he fell from that, the path of Dharam. He kidnapped somebody else's wife. That one act of his brought him so much down. Hiranyakashipu, he did a lot of austerities. He knew the scriptures very well, but his conduct was not good. So that's why these rishis, they put that conduct right next to the Shruti and the Samriti. So to understand how dharma is determined by, we got to just look at all of this. So not only knowing the scriptures, but our conduct also. This particular way of defining Dharam or knowing Dharam is called Chaturved Dharam Lakshan. Okay, so our actions should be in accordance with all four, which are called Chaturved Dharam Lakshan. In fact, the Samriti Shastra, they even go to that level. They say, Achar Parmo Dharma. They say that your conduct is the first and the foremost when we look at the Dharam. So, Achara Prathmo Dharma. So, in following Dharam, the first and foremost aspect is good conduct in the life. And what is a good conduct? Good conduct, Manu Samriti says, this is a Samriti. Manu Bhagwan, he said, there are 10 values in life that characterize Dharam that should be followed by all the people. Okay? We're going to talk about these in detail. Number 1, Dhriti. First, let me just give you the names, then we'll talk about it in detail. Dhriti. Dhriti means fortitude or forbearance. Dhriti. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about Dhriti in detail in chapter 18. Dhriti. Second is Kshama, forgiveness or ability to endure cheerfully. Forgiveness. Third is called Dham, control over our organs of actions. Dham. In Hindi, it's called Indriyon ka Daman. Fourth is called Asteya, non-stealing. Next one is Shauch, purity. After that comes Indriya Nigraha, mastery over the organs of perceptions, sense organs. So that means the controlling our action organs also and controlling our sense organs also. Next one is Dhi. Dhi means Buddhi, using the faculty of discrimination. God has given us this faculty to use. Dhi. Vidya, knowledge. Satya, truthfulness. And the last one is akrodh, absence of anger. So according to Manu Bhagwan, in a Manu Samriti, these are the values in life that characterize Dharam that should be followed by all people. All people. Okay? Unless you are in a apt time, that crisis. Then it's different. So that's where your discriminating faculty comes into the picture. Okay? So let me repeat it again, these 10 values. Dhriti, fortitude. Kshama, forgiveness. Dham, control over the action organs. Asteya, non-stealing. Shauch, purity. Indriya Nigraha, mastery over the organs of perception. Dhi, using the faculty of discrimination. Vidya, knowledge. Satya, truthfulness. Akrodh, absence of anger. That's why this is another name for these 10 is called Sanatana Dharam, eternal values. That's why the Rishi Patanjali, he mentioned these, he put it into the Yam and the Niyams. He said, before you want to do the asanas, or before you want to do the pranayama, or you want to sit down and meditate or pray, make sure that these values are in your personality. Sanatan Dharam. So it's regardless where you live, who you are, male, female, young, old, in America, in India, or in Africa, does not matter. In Kali Yuga or Satya Yuga, or any other yuga. Whether you are first stage in life or second stage in life or the last stage in life, you still need to follow these 10 values in your life. Let's look at first one, fortitude, dhriti. Dhriti means the capacity to hold on to something. In Bhagavad Gita, we'll see when we reach there in the 18th chapter, Bhagavad Gita says dhriti is of three kinds: tamsik, rajsik, and sattvic. Tamsik dhriti is holding on to things such as sleep, food, and wrong notions. That's a tamsik dhriti. Wrong notion means I don't want to say sorry to somebody. I want to hold on to that. Tamsik. Rajsik dhriti is holding on to money, power, pleasure. Sometimes we are ready to do anything for these. That's a Rajsik dhriti. But when we are on the walking on the path of evolution, we got to remember the Sattvic dhriti. Ability to rise above all the obstacles, difficulties, doubts, while pursuing a noble goal in life. Difficulties will come, but keep on persevering. That is a Sattvic dhriti. A person with that kind of a dhriti may be physically or mentally tired, but will remain steady, will remind himself again and again that I must hold on to this goal. I'm on the path of perfection. So Sattvic dhriti is the strength, force, or ability with which we hold on to our noble values of life. Okay, so when we have this quality in us and we live a life with the help of this quality, we are walking on the path of Dharam. Forgiveness, kshama. The highest form of forgiveness is when the feeling of being offended does not even arise in the first place. That's a forgiveness. It's not like this example that once a lady felt very offended by something that her husband had done. And her husband begged her to forgive him. And finally she did. But once in a while, the wife would again remind her husband that she had forgiven. Then one day, man finally asked her, you said long ago you had forgiven me, so why do you keep reminding me? The wife said, well, I just do not want you to forget that I have forgiven you. So that's not a forgiveness, right? So this is not a real forgiveness. So for the greatest form of kshama is to never have felt any initial offense, insult or hurt. So if it comes, take it out right away. It's almost like if there is a little some kind of a thorn in our hand, what do? We try to take it out. That doesn't mean that we got to keep it there. We throw it away. So if we feel insulted, just right away, the sooner we do, the better it is. Forgiveness is for our good, not for the other person. Okay, and that is a characteristic of a dharam, forgiveness. Control of our organs, action organs, dham, which is also called ahimsa. If you are not able to control the feeling of anger rising in our mind, at least able to control outward expression. Don't lash out. Okay? So all the organs, action organs, they should be in our control. Okay? Dham. Dham. Without even this much control, we only act on impulse and become worse than animal. Okay, so this is like at the physical level, full control. My hands in my control, my mouth in my control. Number 4, asteya, non-stealing. That means not taking anybody's possessions. What right do we have to deprive someone of their wealth, property, or even achievement? So asteya means that even the thought of taking someone else's wealth should not arise in the mind. It belongs to somebody else. And at the higher level, it takes us to that ultimate detachment. First, we look at somebody else owns it. We should not think about taking it. But when our understanding goes to that level, who owns everything in this universe? God does. God does. We should use it as a custodian, not as a owner. That's why whenever we perform the rituals, the Havan rituals, what do we say again and again? Idam namam. Repeatedly we say that. We are asking God to give us, but at the same time, we are saying, God, give us that kind of a wisdom so that we don't get attached to it because it's not ours. Idam namam. So that directly corresponds to this number 4, asteya, non-stealing. Nothing is ours. The next one is shauch, purity. And what is purity? What is shauch? Purity does not mean standing under the shower for an hour with all kinds of different shampoos and soaps that are available these days. Because some people, they use different soap for the face and different for the feet. Is that shauch? Your physical cleanliness is only one small part of the shauch. Sure, we got to keep this body clean. But the most important is our purity of the motive. Sometimes the outwardly action could look very noble, but inwardly our attitude may not be all that good. So for every action we perform, each of us must be aware of whether or not our intentions are pure. Okay, so physical purity definitely, but shouldn't stop there. Ultimately, purity in our words, purity in our actions, and not just only in actions, the motive behind the actions. Next one is indriya nigraha, control over the organs of perception, which are called sense organs. And sense organs determine what we should see, hear, taste, touch, etc. So this control is very important and it requires discrimination. If we know that by seeing or hearing certain things, our mind will get polluted, or agitated, we should not allow ourselves to hear it. How many times we just keep the TV on all day long? Or the minute we go into the car, we turn the radio on, or some people don't even turn the radio off ever. So no discrimination. There's nothing wrong in news, nothing wrong in the TV, nothing wrong in the books, but the discrimination has to be there. Is it going to agitate me? Is it going to increase my desires? So we got to put a little filter over there. That is called Indriya Nigraha. Then number 7 comes Dhi, the discrimination. Dhi is the intellect or the faculty of discrimination, which means the ability to control ourselves. It is only with the discrimination or with the faculty of this discriminative we can practice Dham or adhere to Dharam at all. Because without intellect, without this discriminative faculty, we don't even know. We can't even understand rest of them. That's why to have clarity, to strengthen this Dhi faculty in us is extremely important. That's why we study the scriptures. That's why we sit down and discuss these issues so that we can discriminate better. That's why we say that Gayatri Mantra also. We are praying to God that increase my Dhi, Buddhi, Prachodayat, make it better. And number 8 is knowledge, Vidya. A person should know what is the true knowledge. Is knowledge merely the ability to read and write? To earn a livelihood? The scriptures say the knowledge that liberates one from all psychological entanglements is the only real knowledge. And that is the knowledge of the self. Sure, we need a job. We need to pay our bills. But ultimately, we need to know who we are. That kind of a vidya. That's a vidya. We must know the real and the final goal. We need to know what is true and what is not true. We need to know what is temporary and what is permanent. That is called vidya. And number 9 in this category is satya, truthfulness. And we all know that when we make a promise, we should fulfill it. If we do that, whatever we speak should be true. And what is true, that alone we should speak. Okay. The very first lessons in the Gurukuls, they used to give Satyam Vad. The very first thing, Satyam Vad. And the second lesson was Dharmamuchar. Simple saying. Okay. And number 10 is Akrodh, without anger. Whatever may happen, there should be no longer any kind of anger in the mind. Sometimes we think that if we don't get angry, others don't listen. We got to see what that anger is doing to us. Maybe others are listening to us, but we are burning inside. And with that kind of anger, all other qualities, they burn internally. So, Akrodh. We should have perfect control over anger and have the discrimination to know when and where to show our anger. Even if there's an outwardly anger we have to show, no internal anger. No internal anger. So these are 10. Let me repeat them again. If you and let me see how much time do we have today. Oh, it's all about time, huh? Yeah. Okay, so you have all these 10. Just quickly. Dhriti, Kshama, Dam, Aste, Shoch, Indriya Nigrah, Dhi, Vidya, Satya, Akrodh. Okay. At the end, let me just tell you some facts. A dharam that fails to bring peace and harmony in personal and community life is no dharam at all. Peace and harmony. The perfection of dharam does not lie in personal achievement alone. We don't live in vacuum. So that's why the community, the family, the society is very much important. The body, mind are the instruments for both worldly enjoyments and spiritual enlightenment. So that's why dharam, we got to follow dharam with our body also, with our mind also. And at the same time, we got to keep that ultimate goal in our mind. Any action, big or small, that is free from selfishness is part of dharam. So selfishness has to be thrown out. And at the same time, the highest dharam is when a person performs duties for the welfare of humanity, lovingly, selflessly, and most of all, dedicates all the actions and its fruits to God. Then we are on the path of dharam. In that kind of a person's life, it's like a whole life is a field of dharam. And ultimately, it's not just a theory. It is something we need to practice. These are not just the definitions to remember. Because a theory that is not practiced is not better than a body without breath. So whatever we talked about today, that all needs to be practiced. And the purpose of dharam, always remember, purpose of dharam is to move closer to God. So that's what we got to look at. Am I moving closer to God or closer to my ego? So the purpose of dharam is to move closer to God by removing the wall of ego born calamities. Because all the calamities come because of ego. The follower of dharam strives to see truth, auspiciousness, and beauty in all living beings. And what are the signs and symptoms of dharam? Signs. How do we know whether we are walking on the path of dharam or not? This is, we need to keep in mind. Check ourselves. So what are the signs and symptoms of dharam? The answer is that which has no room for narrow-mindedness, sectarianism, blind faith, and dogma is the true dharam. That which has direct experience as its source, but also welcomes logic and reasoning, is true Dharam. And Dharam does not only promise heaven after life, but Dharam helps us, all the aspirants, to create a heavenly atmosphere wherever a sadhak lives. So that's why those four things, remember, Shruti, Samriti, Sadachar, and the fourth one was joy and pleasure in life. So when we are walking on a path of a Dharam, when we understand it properly, we feel that joy. And where is the joy coming from? Where is the pleasantness coming from? From the real source, not from outside. So that's why it said that it's not if you walk on the path of Dharam, you will go to heaven. No. Wherever you are, that becomes heavenly if you are path on that. Okay. So let me answer your questions.
We have one question from Manjula Malhotra.
I was supposed to end it 10 minutes ago, but sorry, a little longer. But so who has a question?
Manju Malhotra and then Jonathan.
Okay, all right.
Namaste, Hersh. You know, I mean, I just wanted to write a few things. Never mind. I understood, but couldn't write fast enough.
Manju, I can't hear you. Say that
I
again.
couldn't write fast enough.
Oh, you couldn't write fast enough. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No problem. No problem. But otherwise,
you know
no
what
question.
What we can do, maybe I'll just summarize it and type it or give it to somebody else. Maybe Kim or Jonathan, they can type it and give it to you guys. The summary of this, not the whole thing, but the summary of it. The points which should be practiced. I'll do that. How about that?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure others could not. If you could not write.
Yeah.
I will type it.
Everything.
Neeru here. I will type it.
Oh, you will type? Okay, all right. I'll just give the points to you. I'll summarize the whole thing, and maybe a sheet or two sheets.
Okay, no
then
problem.
it can be distributed. Okay.
Yes,
We'll
yes,
do
I can do it.
हर्ष एक क्वेश्चन है
Sure.
आपने बोला था कि साधारण एंड सामान्य धर्म दे आर बोथ सेम साधारण एंड सामान्य
Yeah,
they are both same, right?
yeah.
Okay, so
See, there is a maybe you did not understand asadharan. There is a vishesh dharam.
वो अलग है, right? आपने उसके
Samanya and sadharan is the same. The fourth one is like everybody under all the circumstances, other than they are like a particular special circumstances.
Okay.
Majority of the, I would say 99.9% of the time, we are in a very sadharan time and we should follow these 10 principles.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
But once in a while, here and there, something happens, and then we got to, if we have a higher level of ghee, then we can see what to do and what not to do. Okay, under those circumstances.
Does Jonathan have a question?
But sadharan and samanya, to answer your question, yes, those are terms used for the same. Yes, Jonathan.
I had a question. You mentioned that God is the Dharam of the universe is God.
Yes.
But I had a question that was, does Dharam somehow transcend God, or is Dharam created by God? So
created by God.
Okay.
It's created by God or another name for God.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. See, like who upholds. See, just like we can say that this particular building is held by earth, but who is holding earth? Then we can say that the whole movement over here, right? As if the laws can say that, yeah, universal laws. But who is really holding the universal laws also?
Right.
Whether we call it a gravitation or the movement, who is holding that? So where did this all come from? That is God.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yes. Anybody else? No, Jyoti?
Nope, nobody. That's
No,
all.
Nobody? Okay, all right.
Rita,
Harsh, I have one question, please.
Sure, Rita.
Can you please repeat Shruti, Smriti, चारों वो दोबारा से नाम?
Yeah, Shruti, Smriti, Sadachar, Sadachar. Okay. And then fourth one was, it's like in English, it's like anything which gives us pleasure and joy. But in Sanskrit, it's called Savasya cha priyam atmanaha. जो आत्मा को प्रिय लगे.
जो आत्मा को प्रिय.
Okay. So Shruti, Samriti, Sadachar, and Swasya cha priyam atmana. Okay.
Thank you.
Harshji, I'm looking for a clarification. When we
talk little louder, please, Nishi. Little, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I am okay now.
So when you talk about Dharam in common language, sometimes it seems to stand for religion. Some people use it synonymously for religion. Other times you hear it as duty. It's synonymous with this is my Dharam, this is my duty. Is it true for both? Is it such a broad word that it covers so many things?
No, it's not a religion at all.
Okay.
Maybe next week I can have a continuation of this where I can clarify it for you guys. What is the difference between Dharam and a religion? Okay?
As a religion is just a subset.
Yeah, the Dharam and a religion, it's just like commonly we use the word Dharam as a religion, but no, Dharam in its right implication is not a religion at all. Dharam is where all these qualities are coming in a personality.
So to live a dharmic life is to...
Dharmic life, more, yes, exactly, full of these values. Okay, religion, the founders of all the religions, they wanted to cultivate these qualities in the disciples. But ultimately, every religion divides us. We become more and more narrow-minded. That's why towards the end, I said anything which makes us narrow-minded, we are not dharmic.
Thank you.
Wherever the narrow-mindedness comes, no, my path is better than yours, we are not on the path of Dharam.
It's very broad. If you were to use Dharam in a few sentences, how would you, giving examples, use it in a few sentences, if you can?
A few sentences, you cannot define Dharam in a few sentences.
As an example, that it is Dharam.
Example is, to me, I think when you feel connected with God, when you are in alignment with all the values, then only then you can say that you are walking on the path of Dharam. Otherwise, Dharam is very hard to comprehend just with few words, few lines. Because the duties alone also, somebody says duties, but duties, they keep on changing. And according to our own perception, we give the color to the duty too.
Actually, can we call it is to uphold and sustain a positive and a moral order in an individual and a community?
Yeah, that's true, but that's only still part of it.
Right.
I don't think any one sentence can really define Dharam. That's why the different scriptures, they just tried so many different ways. But one thing you got to remember, that Dharam and religion, two separate things. You can be religious and still dharmic. But remember that Dharam, you can say it's like a spirituality. recognizing that you are the spirit. Okay, spirituality. And we'll talk, I think I'll have a continuation of this class next week also. You guys think about it too. And if somebody can come up with one liner, that's fine. But to me, I think it's if it was possible to define Dharam in one line, the scriptures would have done it. I have never seen a one single liner, because when you just put a one line, dharyate iti dharma, still it does not explain. So it really, we got to open it up to understand the right implications of Dharam. Okay, so we'll definitely, I think next week we'll talk about the difference between, we'll start out from there and we can have a discussion, the difference between a Dharam and religion. I'll start with that and maybe you'll have a better answer from there. Okay, so I think Urmil wanted to say a few words